Hey everybody, hope you are doing awesome today. My name is Wade Galt and I'm excited to share with you a framework that works to help insurance agency owners create an abundant and sustainable 3-day weekend type lifestyle. I've been working with insurance agency owners for over 30 years and I've been working for entrepreneurs over 20 years. And a lot of the work I do centers around helping people create a life and a lifestyle that really aligns with what's most important to them. And so one of the things I'm going to suggest to you is that a lot of what we're going to do in this call is just focus on a basic concept, and I simply call it the 3-day weekend insurance agent blueprint. It's a way that if you're an insurance agency owner or an insurance agent, however you like to word that, a person who runs a business, an insurance agency, there are certain rules, there's a certain way that insurance agencies run that if you operate your business in alignment with them, it's going to be pretty easy for you to make things happen. And if you don't operate in alignment with them, it's actually just a lot harder and you're going to be working a lot harder than you need to. So what I'm going to do is bring this to the forefront here and move me out of the frame here. And so first thing I want you to consider is in any situation, especially with your business, you have to look at why you started your business if you want to get the most out of your business. Now, most small business owners, entrepreneurs, insurance agency owners, we started our business because we wanted a certain amount of freedom and we wanted a certain amount of wealth and abundance in our life. Now, I help entrepreneurs, insurance agency owners make more money in less time doing what they do best so they can create more abundance and do that in a way that helps the world and themselves. I've written books about this. And what I want to do is share with you this basic concept about one-dimensional wealth. For some people, wealth is only measured in money. And because of this, all their time and effort is invested just to make more money. Whereas for other people, there is this understanding that wealth has many dimensions. And these might not be the exact 10 different coaches or experts name different ones, but put simply, it's possible for people to be poor financially, but still very rich and very wealthy overall. So to experience wealth in any dimension, we need to invest our time, our energy, our life force in there. And if we want to experience wealth in many dimensions, we need to invest in many dimensions. So from a multi-dimensional view of the world, no one area is worth much more than any other. So again, from a multidimensional wealth standpoint or multidimensional living or multidimensional business, the goal is not to really have a lot of wealth, to own it or hoard it or put it in a box somewhere. It's to actually experience this wealth in many dimensions. And when you compare that to, let's say, one-dimensional wealth, you could have all the money in the world, but if there's 9 other dimensions, and to use just sort of a mathematical concept, you could only ever still possibly score a 10 out of 100. And so a person who is diversified, let's say they're at 5s across the board, but they have wealth in finance, family, romance, friends, health, fun, spirituality, career, growth, giving. They have it all over the place. That's going to beat one-dimensional wealth. It doesn't just beat it mathematically in this example, because this, of course, would be a score of, let's say, 50 versus a 10, but you're a more balanced person. And in fact, if you're looking to generate more wealth, if you're looking to connect with more people and make more money, when you can talk about more things other than simply your business, it makes it easier for you to connect with people. And so sustainable wealth is what multiplies most quickly. With a solid multidimensional wealth platform or foundation, people attract wealth more easily. People like this are more engaging, they're more fun, they're more competent, and they attract other people towards them because those people want to be around them. So if you were to look at your wealth situation, I invite you just to take a moment here, and after the call, I'll give you these sheets if you want to use them and do the exercise to relate with them, but just think about for a second, which areas of your life are really strong for you and which areas are perhaps not so strong. And if you don't mind, if you're open, I'd love you to share in the comments, if you like, what are the areas that you feel strongest about, that you really feel like, whether it's your family, your health, your business, your career, your growth, your giving, your finance, where do you feel very strong? And then next, think about what are the areas that you really want to develop. And so what I'm going to suggest to you is the way you're going to develop those is by investing more of your time, your energy, your life force, perhaps your money in these areas to make this happen. And so this first concept of just understanding that there's more to life than just money. Most of us know this intellectually. Many of us have experienced this. Some of us have not yet experienced this. We've heard about it, but we haven't fully experienced it. Kind of like the difference between hearing about what it's like to, let's say, have children versus actually having and raising children. There's a difference there. But so one of the main exercises we look at is to say, look at how your time investments reflect which parts of your life are thriving and which are not. And then again, this provides an opportunity for you to adjust, for you to invest in the areas that are most important to you and make more of that happen. So that first thing I want you again to consider is just this idea that you have the ability to impact your wealth. And then as we look at in this example of an exercise here, you have the opportunity to look at each of these dimensions and decide that you're going to perhaps drop some activity or commitment that's not serving you, and or you have the ability to add something. So you might decide you're going to, let's say in your family area, you're going to get into arguments over petty things, and you're going to add having family dinner together, and you could set a target date for that. So this is just sort of a basic starting point of how people will start looking at what they can do with just wealth in their lives and multiplying that and experiencing it more. And for a lot of insurance agency owners, for a lot of business owners, they're already doing well financially, but they're not yet fully experiencing all these dimensions. And sometimes it's because they're so caught up in just that wealth part and understanding the idea that yes, wealth is important. And especially if you have a family and you see yourself as a provider and you want to make sure you're providing for your family, you want to make sure you're providing solid employment for your employees, you want to make sure you're providing a great service and an offering for your clients, it can be very easy to get caught up in just losing sight of how important it is to just stay connected and to make sure you're hitting all those dimensions of wealth. So that's sort of the first conversation here. The second piece I want you to consider is this idea, and this is going to get a lot more specific as far as what it looks like in your agency, but more specifically, really for any entrepreneur, how you create a 3-day weekend lifestyle. Now, this is something, it's really in a lot of ways, it's like a puzzle. It's something you kind of need to figure out. So if you want to live in a certain place, if you want to afford living in a certain part of the world, there's certain finances, there's certain things, there's just things you have to achieve in order to make this happen. Well, in this case, what this reflects is the idea that to create a 3-day weekend lifestyle, first, like most things in life, you have to see it, then you plan it, and then you do it. And so one of the first things you would do if you wanted to create a 3-day weekend lifestyle, and again, later I'll have tools that can help you do this. I just invite you to be present with this at the moment, is first you would list all the things you would do if you didn't need to work. And who would you do those things with? So you might say, well, wait, this is very similar to what I do on weekends or when I have long vacations. Yep, if you had an extended vacation, what are the things you would do and who would you do those things with? And if you get clear about those, the next thing would be to say, okay, well, when would you make time for that in your schedule? Because if you just list them, well, that helps. That's writing down, let's say, a goal. Now, if you started looking at, well, when would I do these things? When would they fit into my schedule? Then you could start looking at how you could schedule that life of yours outside of work without yet worrying about what you're doing during your work hours. And then just say, okay, look, on evenings, here's what I'm going to do. On weekends, here's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to create as great of a life as possible outside of work. And if you think about anything, whether it's the business you've grown, whether it's if you've raised kids, anything you've done that is great, that has required long-term investing, it's been something that usually if you were intentional about it and you had a plan, things go a lot better than if you just sort of take it as it comes or just wing it. And while certainly spontaneity can be awesome, when we plan things, it makes it usually more likely they're going to happen. So being able to schedule this and then make that decision that you're going to start moving towards a 4-day work week / 3-day weekend lifestyle, or whatever that lifestyle is for you. So when I say 3-day weekend or 4-day work week, you might say, Wade, my kids are of school age right now. And so my simple schedule is I'm happy to work the days that they're in school. So that's roughly 180 days a year if you're in the United States. And on the times when they're not in school, I'd like to not be working. So that might be your schedule. But basically, to make this decision that you're going to do this, and this is something that a lot of people never make this decision. They think it's very difficult. And I want you to consider something. At some point, when you were working your first job, whatever your source of income was, you made a certain amount of money. And whether you worked for someone else or you worked for yourself, you decided at some point that you weren't just going to sit at the first hourly income or the first salary or the first level of total income that you made, that you wanted to grow. And you probably set some financial goals. Maybe you created some action plans. Maybe you listened to some motivational tapes, created game plans, whatever it might be. And you took action because in your mind, it was unacceptable for you to continue to simply stagnate at the same income forever. And most people, even if they're at lower levels of financial success by many standards, they've still grown at some point. And so think about this. In your mind, if you were an employee when you started, in your mind, you understood that, okay, I'm going to make a certain amount per hour or per year, and then I'm going to make more. And if I don't make more, I'm not sticking around. I'm going to go somewhere else. I'm going to leave. That's not acceptable. And yet somewhere in this whole conversation, many of us forget that one of the other things we want to earn more of is free time. And a lot of people think they have to earn the money first to then afford the free time, when very often it's taking the free time that gives us the rest, the energy, and the focus to then come in and perform at a high level and generate the income. But so again, I want you to consider this basic idea that a lot of this starts with a decision. And a lot of what I'm doing today is hoping to push you towards that decision, because especially if you're an insurance agency owner, you already have a business model that is a repeat or residual income or renewal income model that so aligns with allowing you to create a 3-day weekend type lifestyle if you're intentional about it. So this is that sort of first part, seeing it. Now, admittedly, seeing it can be kind of easy. It's kind of like going to a workshop and getting really excited and coming home and saying, hey, I wrote down all these goals. I'm going to do these things. Well, the next step to go a little bit deeper is then to plan it. And this is where very quickly we come out of sort of the vision world or the hypothetical or the abstract or the dream world or the future vision, and we come down to a very more left-brained, concrete world of, okay, well, how much money is it going to need for me to support and maintain this lifestyle? How much do I need for this? And this can be something that there's exercises we do around this that help you get clear about, okay, well, here's what my life would look like if I got to do with my time what I wanted to do, and I got to travel or whatever the other things I would like to do. Then I put a number on those and say, okay, well, here's the income I would need to make after all taxes and stuff to support this. So we get clear on that income. You might not be there right away, but at least we now have something we're aiming towards. And then identifying the results and the projects that will provide the desired income. Now, this is the second of 3 main segments we're going to look at in this presentation today. And this is what I want you to consider, even as we're moving up to the third stage, is what are those projects you do that provide the highest income for you? And if you feel comfortable, if you don't mind, I'd be curious for you to put in what are the highest impact and highest income activities. Not how much you make, but just if you put in the chat, if you're comfortable, what are those activities that you know are the highest impact for your agency? They make the highest impact with your clients, with your team members, and they lead to the highest incomes. So we need to start thinking about what those things are. And then what we want to do is look at any activity or project that doesn't support these top projects. Because if the top projects are most necessary, there's the top projects for you, And then there's the top projects for the agency. So some of those might be slightly different. You might say, Wade, my top projects are more in the proactive or financial service area or big cases versus my team members might be more about property and casualty sales or whatnot. So it might be slightly different. But other than those, if it's not a priority of the agency or not a priority of yours, then we want to look at seeing how we can eliminate those things. And then any of the essential activity that can be done by a competent person for profit, we want to delegate. And so a lot of you all are, of course, doing this already. You have team members that write auto insurance or homeowners insurance, and they do certain things that you don't get involved in. So some of this you're doing, some of this maybe you've thought of, and maybe some of it you've not been as intentional with, but I want you to consider this basic idea. A lot of the times I will talk with insurance agency owners or entrepreneurs, and I'll ask them how much money they want to make. So I say, what's your goal for next year? What's your goal for 2 years from now or 5 years from now? Usually I get a number. Every once in a while I get a person that says, wait, I want to make as much as possible. Now, there's a couple things to that answer. On one hand, a person would say, well, obviously I want to make as much as possible. I'd love to make $10 billion, but I might not make that next year. What that answer shows, though, very often is that person hasn't even thought of what the money would mean to them. So, for example, I know if I doubled my income, what I would do with that money. I have a pretty clear idea of the specific activities it would allow me to do, the free time it would create for me. In other words, it would allow me more capabilities, more experiences, more enjoyment, stronger support team for the work I do. So there's so many ideas I have if the gross income of my business doubled of what I would do with that. And so that means something to me. The same way if a person says, you know what, I'm saving up X amount of dollars. I'm saving up $10,000 so I can go on a trip. I'm saving up $50,000 to buy a car, saving up $100,000 to make a down payment on a house, whatever it might be. When there's meaning associated with that goal, then that becomes something more powerful. On the other hand, when the goal is, well, I'm just going to make as much money as I can, it's a lot less powerful. So as we start getting to this last stage, we get to the part of doing it, and we want to realize one of the most important things I'm going to suggest you need to know about your agency, which is that chances are you're the most talented salesperson, or at the very least, income generator or entrepreneurial type person in the agency. So we need production from you. We need results from you, not necessarily sales production, but we need contribution from you. And so if you're spending the majority of your day doing $10 an hour tasks that could be delegated or eliminated, then the agency is missing out on you. Even if you're in the office, even if you feel like, well, wait, I'm showing up, but you're not bringing your best, there's a whole lot that's being missed out. So we want you to be able to focus on the critical few projects needed to obtain the desired results. And I often use this example of a dentist. If you were a dentist, at least in the United States, the model that most dentists do is that the dentist does the cavities, the fillings, the root canals, and that's sort of the top level of skill set that's needed. Then there's what's called dental hygienists, and they do the teeth cleanings, and they deal with the majority of the clients. So let's say they deal with all the clients. I think it's pretty much usually going to be all. So they do 100% of the teeth cleanings, and maybe 20% of those clients roughly need some sort of additional surgery that only the dentist can do. And then there's the administrative team member or team members that they're at sort of a third level of income-wise and skill level as far as what they can deliver. And so what we need to make sure we're doing is be very clear about what it is that you do, that it's at that top level, and making sure that you're focusing and able to do those things. Because if you're not, they're just not getting done and the agency's missing out. And then once you finalize your schedule to implement those vital few projects, what it creates for you is an ability now for you to move forward. And then the last two steps actually are probably the most involved because they involve the long tail. They involve the lifetime journey of tracking your key activities, projects, and people, and reporting your results monthly and seeing how that's going. And then in addition to that, we want to make sure that you are adjusting and taking actions, adjusting budgets and so on, whenever it's necessary to help you get whatever that next result is. And so we want to make sure that you're aware of what can be done, that you're part of that solution, and again, with your team, that you are helping create the results that allows them to then focus on what they do best. And so one of the other tools, which again I can share after, is a tool called the 3-day weekend game plan. And there's an Excel version of it that you can do where it'll calculate and do the math for you. Or there's a written version you can do. Actually, just reverse that. There's the written version and the Excel version. And those will allow you to create your plan and get clear about what it is that you want to do. So now let's take this and let's jump into the final stage here, is where we start looking at your 3-day weekend insurance agent or agency owner blueprint. Now, if you're comfortable, what I'd like you to do is put in the chat how many hours a week you're currently working and how many hours a week you'd like to be working. And again, if you don't feel comfortable doing that, that's fine. That's something you can message me later. Or if nothing more, I'm going to suggest you write that down, because I'm going to show you a way that it's going to be very possible for you to make this happen a lot more quickly than perhaps you might realize. So the 3-day weekend insurance agency owner model is really all about you making time for fun, still having time to focus and do great work so that you can enjoy the process, so that you don't have to say, well, I hate my job so much, I'm going to retire as quickly as possible, and then find out that my life expectancy is longer, and then I maybe run out of money and then I'm bored, as opposed to enjoying the process along the way, and at every step, having fun with it and being able to be engaged and perhaps just simply working slightly less hours over time, as opposed to ever fully officially pulling the plug on retirement. So a lot of times when I meet with insurance agents or agency owners, especially if they're brand new agency owners, this is what's going on for them. They're working 5.5 days a week, maybe 60 hours or more. And on the weekends, they're just resting and recovering. What's happening is there's this lack of focus or vision. And so what happens is the person is doing their best to keep up. They're in this sort of survival mode. And so they're really just working, quote unquote, whenever they have to. So there's this constant need to be working, as opposed to being in a situation where you can enjoy taking a break, having some time to enjoy the process, enjoy life, that sort of stuff. So that's the first thing to be very clear about, that a lot of people are not really able to do because they're so caught up in doing whatever's in front of them. And if you want to make this shift, what we want to be able to do is we want you to be able to decide first that life is more important than your work and life outside of work, so that fun comes first and that work comes second. And that can happen in a few different ways. And one of the ways this can happen is just by you being very clear, again, about what's most important for you to have happen in your life, and then making sure on those other days that you come in and focus and get results. Now, what I'm going to show you here is we can get very clear of what we're going to do on those days. And so there's a book I'd written, and I put a link on the LinkedIn chat where you can download the book if you like. It's called The 23 Reasons Most Insurance Agency Owners Can't Create a 3-Day Weekend Lifestyle and How to Fix Them. And we talk a lot about those obstacles in that ebook and how to address them. And what it really comes down to, though, is understanding that there's just 4 things you need to do right to be excellent as an insurance agency owner. The first thing is your agency needs to be able to retain business. So a 15% lapse rate or an 85% retention rate, if that's the numbers you have, a client is going to stay with you for average about 6.7 years. If you're able to bring that lapse rate down to 10%, that client's going to stay 10 years on average. So that 5% difference in lapse rate is not just 5% one year, it's over multiple years, and it starts becoming exponential. And what it basically means is that 5% difference in lapse rate means 3.3 more years of renewals, or to put it simply, instead of roughly 6.6 years, 9.9 years. In other words, another 50% of income. So for every $100,000 of P&C income you currently have, if you kept that lapse rate from a 15 and got it to a 10, you'd be making $150,000 for every dollar you're doing. So that would make a big difference for you. The second thing, of course, is we want to be growing. Now, in some markets, it's tougher to grow. It depends on the seasonality or what your industry is like. And the higher the growth rate, the better. So a 10% growth rate can be awesome. Sometimes you'll have more than that. Usually, if you've been an agency owner for more than 5 to 10 years, it's harder to maintain a 10% growth rate, though that can happen. Then the third thing, which is so important, and this is one of those tasks that sometimes is difficult to delegate, though it can be done, is your multi-line ratio. And your multi-line ratio is simply what percentage of the time is a multi-line sale made through a P&C sale. So in this case here, if I have here 3 total life or health or bank sales from 20 auto fire sales, that's a 15% multi-line ratio. Or to put it differently, if I sold 100 P&C policies and I sold 1 life policy, and that's all I sold, that would be a 1% multi-line ratio, 1 out of 100. So 15% multi-line ratio is good. 25% is great. And this is one of the areas that very often the agency owner might get more involved with. And then the last thing has to do with automating. I've sometimes called this updating as well. This is about growing your team, evolving your skills, their skills, and creating a situation where you reduce employee turnover. And so it's not that you automate in the sense that you have your team members become robots. It's a sense that you automate in that sort of McDonald's or E-Myth level of process that's so predictable that there's smoothness from it. So there's team members that stay with you for long periods of time. And because they stay with you for long periods of time and they do great work, a lot of things happen pretty much almost automatically. You don't have to be involved in every decision, and things just keep happening in a positive way. So in a good situation, on average, you would have to hire a new employee every 24 months. That's replacing one, not if you're growing. If you're growing, that's great. But just as far as replacing somebody because you lost somebody that's good. And what would be great is if you only needed to hire a new team member every 36 months to replace somebody, let's say, that's doing a good job. And so if you look at this now, and this is where this all comes together, if you're clear that, okay, these 3 days of the week, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, which at least in my experience, in the American culture, United States of America, that's the easiest 3 days where there's still a lot going on. A lot of stuff is even going on Thursday night. Sometimes if you want to sleep in and people are starting to more take advantage of this. So those are 3 great days to take off. And then you say, okay, on Monday, here's my focus. On Monday, I am the VP of retention, or the CRO, the Chief Retention Officer, whatever it is. I'm making sure that whatever I can do to get our lapse rate to 10%, I'm going to be doing. We'll look at some examples of that, but put simply, if you think about your agency income, if somewhere between 50 to 60 to 80% of your income is coming from either P&C renewals or P&C sales that walk in the door, in other words, that you don't need a superstar salesperson to write them, you just need somebody to take the order. If that's the case, then a huge part, 60, 70, 80% of your income is coming from those P&C renewals. So Monday's actually the most important day. You got to get that right. Now, it doesn't have to be on a Monday. I'm using Monday as an example here. But since it's the most important piece, I'm putting it Monday. And so sometimes you might be the person who is implementing stuff. Sometimes you might be the person who's guiding stuff. Usually with retention, a lot of times you're in that sort of CEO role of guiding things. On Tuesday, you'd want to grow your agency and you'd say, okay, I'm going to get involved in the acquisition part of this, whatever it is that's going to help me aim towards marketing, optimizing my growth, and whatever I can do to make that happen, whether it's me specifically doing things, again, we'll look at some examples shortly, or me being the sort of CEO behind that. On Wednesday, I'd want to focus on multi-lining, doing multi-line reviews, and anything I can do to coach team members to help create that high multi-line ratio. And then on Thursdays, I'd want to be focused on automating delegating things, developing the team, aiming towards that 36-month average team member turnover. And as it says in the bottom here, I have one focus per day, 1 day per week. And this is the kicker here. This is so awesome. Any week you decide to work. Because once you get your agency going, if your team members are treated well, compensated well, and if they also have some incentives to earn paid time off, you taking time off is not going to bother them. And if you come in on Monday and you get your retention work done and your lapse rate's at 10% or as close as it's going to be this week, great, you're done with your work on Monday. You can go home. You can go fishing. You can go shopping. You can go golfing, whatever it is you like to do. And so if you have that understanding of your specific tasks to do, then you could say, okay, well, on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, here's what I'm going to do. And I found this is very helpful, especially, by the way, if you have children. So the Friday, I call Friday my day. My wife and I have 2 children, and they're of school age. So Friday, and in my case, I do more beach volleyball than golf, but Friday is a day where both my wife and I know kids are in school unless it's summer. So we have a babysitter built in. We get our time. We get a time to be ourselves, to be kids, to do what we used to do, to whatever it might be. And so that's a focus, at least during school hours, on us. Saturday can be more about social, and Sunday family, or whatever works for you. But you start getting clear about what are those 3 things that would really make a huge impact on your life in those areas. On Monday, you might say, okay, I'm going to look at the reports around lapse rate and retention. I'm going to do what I can to focus on profit. Maybe I even write some handwritten thank you cards, welcoming clients to our agency, or whatever it might be that involves me building relationships to retain business. On Tuesday, I might go out and visit centers of influence. Maybe I take some of my team members with me to introduce them to mortgage brokers, realtors, other people that can send us business, car dealerships. I might be making outgoing calls. Maybe I'm working LinkedIn to support other people, connect with them, and build anywhere I can do that way. Wednesday, I'd be conducting appointments, multi-line review appointments. I'd be popping in on my other team members' appointments and just simply implementing my multi-line review process of doing appointments, helping people, and getting to the next step, making those sales happen. And then on Thursday, I'd be looking at what do I need to delegate so I can invest more time doing the things I do best. So eventually what you might find less of the retention, once you really get that down, you might say, wait, actually, 2 days a week I'm doing growth, and 1 day a week I'm doing multi-line, and 1 day a week I'm doing automation. So over time it would evolve. And on that Thursday, in addition to delegating, I could be recruiting, I could be training new team members, coaching team members, hold them accountable, learning new information. And again, all of this supporting what I'm looking to create. And so the third exercise, and again, I'll share these slides with you, is for you then to decide what would that schedule look like for you? What would you be doing on each of these days if you committed to something like this? Knowing that if you get it right, if you get the result right, you don't need to occupy a chair. You simply need to help make things happen. And if you can make those things happen, again, you don't have to be in a situation where it's dependent upon whether you're physically in the business or not. You can more simply see that the results are happening, and you can be part of that process of helping other people create those results, see those results, and take part in those results. So that's the 3-day weekend insurance agent blueprint. There are a few different ways we can help you implement this. And rather than going into a sales presentation, I'm just going to suggest to you, if you like, you can go to automaticinsuranceagency.com/strategy, or you can look at the link that I put in LinkedIn here, or you can reach out to me if you can't see that link and schedule time to connect with me to talk about a game plan for your agency and how we can help you. In addition to that, you're welcome to check out the 3-Day Weekend Entrepreneur podcast at 3dayweekendentrepreneur.com. This goes into not just strategies for insurance agency owners, but also for other entrepreneurs. And then there's the Automatic Insurance Agency podcast, which is at automaticinsuranceagency.com. And both of those podcasts are available on Spotify, iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, that sort of stuff. Other than that, I just want to do what I can to help you create the life and the lifestyle that you really enjoy, so you can have time to be with your family, your friends, and the things that are most enjoyable for you in life. So thank you so much for listening. If you have any questions on any of this, you want to check out the replay, you need help, you want to set some time to talk, just let me know. Otherwise, I look forward to helping you make a positive impact on more people's lives, your policyholders, your clients, your prospects, your team members. Make more money and do that in less time, doing what you do best so you can better enjoy your family, your friends, and your life. Thanks so much for listening.